We are one of the highest spenders in R&D in the entire country at this point. So we're also the people behind after the attack, when the Taj Bombay attack happened. The revamping of the entire rooms, that was done by our company.
As advice you would like to give to a young designer when they're designing in F&B space? What are the must-dos while you're designing?
You don't need a Bob Marley color combination to tell you it's a Mexican space, because that's not what we've done there.
Designer and being a woman, so that's a great combination to have, because the patient levels are better and obviously you are much better in a more commanding position to make them understand.
I think as a society or as a startup culture, what has happened is that हम बहुत ज़्यादा focus करते हैं on creating innovation from 0 to 1.
How do you build process? Is there something which you learn over the period of time, or it's better to take a coach?
My first million in my company was the easiest to come to me.
So it's always for you, it's learning over entertainment.
I love the thrill of business.
What are the current gaps in the market that a young aspiring designer should fill in the product space?
Are they doing quality that will sustain you for years?
How do you improve your networking skills? What has helped you in terms of your growing your network? Because that is a very relevant for a B2B business. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Headway to Growth. I am a chartered accountant turned entrepreneur. I run a design company called Sahi Designs. This entire intent of this whole podcast is we learn a lot, and the crowd till whom we are serving is either entrepreneurs who are planning to start their own companies, or who all are already started their own companies and planning to build. So today I have Kanika. She's one common thing between me and Kanika is both of us are non-designers who turned entrepreneurs and running design companies of our own. And I can't be more excited to learn about her journey as an entrepreneur. So thanks, Kanika, for joining in. So Kanika, let's get started. And if I had met you at a dinner party, how would you introduce yourself?
So, firstly, it depends on the number of drinks I've had. But if you'd asked this question 10 years back, I think my answer would have been much more complicated, because I really believe that sometimes we define ourselves with these labels and then people make assumptions. Say, if I introduce myself as a lawyer, there's already an assumption that I'm a shrewd, smart, and politically aligned somewhere. But today, if you ask me, I run my own interior design firm. We're largely doing 3 verticals. One is interior product design, one is interior design, and one is a turnkey entire conceptualization.
All right, great. And how did you get started into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I think ideally I should start with where it began from. 1997, I was 7 years old, and while other kids used to have, I don't know, whatever they were playing out there, my sibling and I, back in India, 1997, Clinique had not launched. Clinique launched in India in 2007. My mother invested in a soap, which is $800, with no smell and no odor and no fragrance coming out of it. And the entire household is making, a thing out of it, that why are we spending $800 on a piece of soap? My sister and I cut that soap into smaller pieces. It was a large brick like soap. We cut it into smaller pieces and we started selling it to everyone. I think that's where my gene of entrepreneurship kicked in, and how everybody has a certain vision of how they look at life. I think I don't know any other way that I've looked at myself except as a businesswoman. It's always been there. It is courtesy my dad's side of the family, I'm assuming. But yeah, it is something that I breathe and I live, and I've always known.
So it's more genetics, and sometimes you what you see at home is what you do. So you always knew you wanted to start something and do of your own. Like, was it because of your dad's side, or because something which you grew, which you saw?
I think you grasp what you see, number one. Yes, of course, genetics plays a great role. Learning from your environment plays a great role. I have always seen the glamour side of business, because as when you're growing up, you don't see the dirty side of business, right? You always see, oh, your dad goes to office. Oh, he's a designer. Oh, there are people who are coming to him for jobs. I always knew I don't want to work under somebody. Having said that, I have done a job for 2 years. Not in the design space, but I have. And it kind of embedded that feeling further ahead that I don't want to work with somebody, for somebody. I always want to run my own business. And what I instinctively know growing up, that I understand design, I understand lifestyle, and I understand luxury. And whenever I've started a company or I have had an idea, it's usually dabbled in these three verticals. So Carved is essentially bringing all of these three together and currently operating.
And what does your dad like? What was your dad do like?
My dad runs a company called Egos. He's the primary designer and owner and founder. The company's been running since 35 years. It started from him trying to earn some money to get my sister out of the hospital. So he gambled the night away, used those 500 rupees that he had, made 40,000, learned shoemaking in 2 days, and established an empire today. And I couldn't be less, I don't know, I couldn't be more proud of this. So, of course, there is a great set of learning that you've seen, a great set of value system that you've seen growing up. And Egos today is available in more than 4,000 stores. We're associated with Metro, Delco, Inc. 5, you name it. It's an internationally acclaimed brand. It takes a lot to build that. But design, I think, is somewhere that got on in the entire process. Yes, entrepreneurship is a very big part of it. But when you spend your entire day, night, years, decades looking at one piece of shoe and trying to make that better, that shows you that you have to give it all in terms of your design.
So that's more in terms of your dad was a product designer, and probably
Yeah.
that was influenced you to become a product designer by any chance?
For sure. Like, I am also a person who really likes something tangible. You call me old school or whatever. I don't understand tech that well. I don't understand SaaS as well. I need to see something. I need to feel it, touch it, to make sure that it feels like a real product. When I'm creating something tangible, it makes me feel like I'm doing some real work. And this is not discounting anybody else out there who's doing as real work as it gets. But tangibility is a very important part for me. So yeah, product makes it better.
You started with your dad? Was it something which you...
No. So I graduated from SRCC. I did a job for a year and a half with a very dear bunch of people. They used to run a company called Boring Brands. That was essentially to learn social media back in the days in 2012 when it was just still getting its roots out there. Then I tried to work with my father for 2.5 years. And post that, I started another company called Anom, which was into power dressing. 3 months before COVID hit, I shut that down and I started Carved.
What was your learning like when you I think you fail, and people talk failures very loosely, but what I realize is when you fail, I mean, you have a lot of learnings which you obviously get into another startup. So what was your key learning out of Anom, and why did it fail?
So I always believe in this concept called sample size. आपकी ज़िंदगी में कुछ भी हो रहा है, आप अपना ओपिनियन तब फ्रेम करो जब आपके पास सैम्पल साइज इनफ है. So if your sample size of failure is 1, you're not a failure. You're just making a mistake and you're learning, or you're not even a mistake, you're just learning from it, right? But unfortunately, when your first company fails, in your head, that's 1 ka sample size is so massive that you have given up on life to a certain extent. Anom was a failure by certain aspects. I feel like we were trying to do something new for the market, which was not ready to accept at that point of time. Also, COVID hit. Yes, I had an inkling to shut it down at that point of time. Yes, all of these factors aside, I also felt like our last collection was something that I was not proud of. And I don't like associating myself with a product that I'm not proud of. If I'm doing something just for the heck of it, it doesn't give me the creative satisfaction. And I think I already had quit way before I decided to shut the company.
Okay.
Because you don't always, like, it's a marriage, right? Like, you don't divorce or come to divorce immediately. There are steps to it. There is a build-up. So in a business as well, I think it's very similar. You're building up to quitting. And of course, there are multiple factors. Is the partnership working out? Are the numbers working out? So yeah, in that
basically
case,
your soul is away, and then because you're invested your time and money into it, it takes a bit of a time to detach yourself and shut it down. Because shutting down takes a lot of guts. Because I think so most of the time when people continue their businesses running into losses, or maybe they're not solely invested in that entire business, they're not happy. I mean,
Yeah.
that whole soul thing is never there. So I think so. Yeah, that's something which you've done. Very, very. That's very bold.
I mean,
That's
but there's a friend of mine. He's a great director, writer, etc. And one day he told me this one line which has stayed with me. कि रिश्ते सिर्फ एक चीज से चलते हैं, जिद से. And I feel that's the same thing about business. पर आपको business में ये पता होना चाहिए कि कब आपको जिद छोड़नी पड़ेगी. So I feel like in Anom, I figured out the right time, and COVID is not lucky for anyone, but thank God COVID came in for me to realize that, okay, I was doing the wrong thing by continuing it. So 3 months before COVID, we kind of put it to rest, gracefully, I think. And but another point that you said, that, quitting is hard and it is brave. Yes, it is brave, but it took, I think I was in severely, like, I don't want to use the word depression, but I was severely upset for 6-7 months. It took me a long time to get out of it, because I come from a family of workaholics. And for us, it's very important to have a tangible goal in front of us. So, of course, that was one big issue. And, LinkedIn and resumes are my pet peeve here, because they really neatly bind your career. 2012 to 14 you did this, 14 to 16 you did this, but this is not how life works. You're not having a neat trajectory. In this entire process, I have run a farm, I have written for publications, I have done multiple things just to identify who I am. And then I have reached towards carved. And I don't even think that carved is, say, my end goal, right? Maybe 10 years down the line, there is something else that is drawing me in. And I will still continue working at carved if it is a profitable business, and inshallah it will be. But if it is not, I should have the guts to say, okay, maybe now I have changed. Maybe my work needs to change with me.
So how did your journey cow into cow? Like from Anom to cow, how did it just transition?
I think my partner liked my designs at Anom. We got talking, we met via a common friend, and we kind of realized that our aesthetic sense align to the T. And it just so happened that we found a gap in the market. There were 2 gaps in the market that we actually started with.
And when was this?
This is 2020.
2020.
And when
Just
nobody was around.
COVID.
No, so COVID had already arrived, and nobody was stepping out. And I remember I was taking a walk under my apartment, and I was struggling, as I mentioned, at that point of time, from the loss of the first business, and then a doomsday happening right around us. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what to do. I get a call at 9 in the evening, and this person is talking to me that, I feel like we have a great synergy. Why don't we do this? I was like, okay, maybe, yeah. But I also believe in this concept of surrendering a little bit, courtesy, Guruji, or whatever in my life. I've always believed that it's very hard for me to say no to opportunities, which is not a great thing sometimes, but most times it has worked out for me. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm doing nothing, let's do it. And then it culminated into whatever it has. So the gaps in the market were largely, yes, we miss good spaces with storytelling, which are not trend driven. And we miss good accessories in the market. So it started with accessories, but today we're doing everything and anything that you see in interior space.
So, I mean, back when we started in 2016, 17 is my first startup. So we started with the likes of Home Lane, Live Space, where we started our journey. Back then, those hiring an interior designer was a taboo.
Yeah.
So, and people were moved from the taboo to getting into the budget homes.
Correct.
But what I realized, while these guys are doing a certain aspect of homes, but the design element kept diluting. So that homes, when I meet a lot of my founder clients, they say that I don't want a cookie cutter home.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to. I mean, they do a great job, all these startups, but how do you think that cow fits into a category of non-cookie cutter homes?
See, cookie cutter homes is a very well thrown around word today. We've used it multiple times, because today an apartment in Pune is not very different from an apartment in Hong Kong or in New York, right? Sizing might differ, but the floor, the layouts, everything is very similar. How do you own a space? How do you ensure that when I enter a space, people know it is my house and not Raj's house, right? That was the number one aim. When you are when you're hired as a designer, you're privy to the internal relationships of every member of that family. You have to go deep dive. You have to learn about what do they like, what are their dynamics like, if the parents are somebody who like the old school charm of colonial, um, is the younger generation also leaning towards that, or they want an absolute modern house? And then how do you collate these two together? How do you bring out the fusion? So today we're working on product lines which are, say, like a Tikri wardrobe. Now it's a modern wardrobe designed for a modern house, but it has Tikri panels on top. It's a great classic fusion. No one in the entire country is at this point doing this. We want to bring that alignment together, but that is only possible if you break away from your Pinterest and Instagram inspired image of what an ideal house looks like. The house should look like yours. You're going to live in it. I'm not. Pinterest CEO is not going to come and live that, oh, beautiful. So it has to own Raj and his family's identity. I'll give you a very small example. So, say we designed a house for a couple, a young couple. One of them is an ardent reader. One of them loves music. How do you embed these together? We ensured that, or music and TV and basically noisy stuff, right? We ensured that and they both love each other, they want to be in the same space. We ensure that the person, while he's watching TV, the lady has a reading corner adjacent to it. She has her music on and she's comfortable in her space. She has her books lined up behind her, and it's her corner. Sometimes we don't even realize the value a corner brings. I think I'm forgetting the name of the author who wrote a room of my own, but that's largely what life is about. Like when you're designing spaces, 87% of your time you're spending in buildings. At least let it be yours for some point of time during the entire day, right? So you just have to understand the personalities. You have to ensure that the blending of colors, everything that you're seeing in a space represents that couple. Even if, say, you like a modern take, and I'm not dissing modern here, modern is beautiful if done thoughtfully. Today we are building modern houses with stone tables with inlay work. Now, inlay work is an age-old work. It's an age-old technique that has been continuing for years, right? The moment you bring that in a modern space, you're adapting for a modern family. You're infusing a technique which is not lost. Touchwood, our karigars and our team is so strong that tomorrow I don't even have to think. If I have a wild idea that, oh, I want to do this in modern space, but how do I do it? I don't have to worry about the how. They are so trained that tomorrow you give me any technique and they're capable of doing it. Of course, there's a privilege that comes with that. But you should have the vision to introduce those aspects, and the client also has to be willing to introduce your ideas, actually. So it's a good collaboration, a good marriage that's happening there.
But then you one thing what you mentioned, you're trying to match a lot of minds, and they're trying to get them together. So while you're doing homes, you're dealing with multiple stakeholders. Stakeholders are relatives. I mean, if there's a joint family, then their wives and kids and everyone. And there's so many decisions which keep changing over time. And it's operationally challenging to make everyone happy. So how do you manage these operational challenges?
I think whenever somebody thinks about interior design, they think it's very, very simple that you come, you see a space, you get the layout, you design it. I think 90% of it is people management. Because when you are designing for a family up close, when you're observing these dynamics, you also learn, okay, the husband gets temper here, the wife gets upset here, and this is the how, say, the wife is leaning a little more towards modern, the husband is leaning towards contemporary. It is your job as a designer, A, to manage the people, and B, get a collaborative process in the entire family. We've also had experiences where we've actually managed couple therapy in a very subtle format because we managed to solve their long-term issues over how to make them work as a team together. So I think, people management there is no skill. There is no, there is a skill, but there is no data timeline to in terms of this is how you need to work. There is no SOP for it.
Right.
You just have to figure it out as you go. So yeah.
But you enjoy the process. You enjoy.
I do, in fact, because I think people management is one of my top skills. I like having these conversations, understanding someone to depth, and not and understanding those layers to a human being. Because what you see is okay. You see a businessman, and great, he has money to spend, but then what about it? There must be childhood artifacts that he wants to keep. He's a traveler. Or what kind of traveler is he? Is he somebody who comes back with wall plates, or is he someone who comes back with artifacts from every place? So understanding these nuances of a personality is actually what we're doing, right? And what better industry to know somebody in depth and than interior design? And I'm sorry, but like, most of these people have been converted into friends and families at this point. We can tomorrow go and have a meal together and have an in-depth conversation asking about different family members. I think it's a great relationship building.
So I think that the whole idea is to build relationship very strong, so you can get everyone on board. I'll tell you a live example, and I'm not kidding. Me and my wife. My wife, she takes up home sometimes. Like, we do about 4-5 homes in a year. There were clients. I used to come on the calls, and they used to fight on the call, and my wife used to console the husband and the wife, and that whole call used to be almost 3 hours call. And I mean, that whole conversation, I could not take it. I think so. That's why I think so. Women and entrepreneurs understand things. They're more patient than the male. I think so. That's why I think so. Designer and being a woman, I think so. That's a great combination to have, because the patient levels are better, and obviously, you are much better in a more commanding position to make them understand much better. Is what I feel.
I mean, definitely that is the reason we don't charge any less as compared to any other vendor. And also, like, I do feel like this is another skill that I had to unlearn, okay? I have a very transparent face. If somebody is saying some nonsense, it usually reflects on my face. So entrepreneurship or running a business definitely teaches you that you don't have to be diplomatic. You just don't have to express every opinion that comes to you. And I'm unlearning that bit, because I always thought, oh, honesty is appreciated. But when you deal with human beings, I think there is a balance there that you
It
have to
backfires
achieve.
sometimes.
It backfires.
I actually honestly gave a feedback. I was working in Infosys. So I have an example. I'm working in Infosys, and I gave a very, very open feedback to my boss. Within a month, I was transferred to another department. Like, and then I realized one thing: like, if you have an opinion, keep it to yourself, because everything need not be transparent. And some people appreciate, some people don't. I think so. 80% don't.
Not everybody has the capacity for a feedback, and sometimes you're also in not a position, like, who are you to give a feedback, right? So if somebody says that, I remember we were at this meeting with an architect, and my partner was with me, and the architect said something, oh, I love that gold from China, that yellow gold. And it just came on my face, and she literally had to kick me under the table, that change your face, because it comes on my face that no, you cannot possibly like that, like, it's hideous. But yeah, it's a part and parcel trial and error of running a business, I guess.
How important is it to sing along with the client? Like, if the client likes this, yeah, and sometimes it's shit. It's like it's not something which you really like. So how? But certain times you gotta go by it. I go by it. I mean, I'm not saying that I go by it 100%. But if my architect is with me and she's like, sir, blah blah, I'm like, the client likes it. If it likes it, let's go ahead and just close the whole process, because we work in a very swift manner. So how do you deal with those? Do you sing along?
So Neha and I push back quite a lot, but we don't push back in a way that you feel like it is pushback, honestly. Before we take a project, we're very clear about the fact that it's a collaborative process. We will take your input. Eventually, it is your space, whether it's an F&B space or it's a home. We will take your ideas. We will obviously incorporate them. But there's a reason you've hired us. There's a reason you go to a designer and not to a tailor sometimes when you want something for a special occasion. A home is a very special occasion. You're going to stay in that space at least, I'm assuming, a minimum of 5 years, right? It has to match what you need, but it can be elevated with your needs as well. So we do push back. We are not imposers. There's a difference.
Okay.
And if there's a client who is very dead sure about, oh no, this is exactly what I want and that is how I want it and I don't want your taste, then we are very okay. Like, say, for example, sometimes you don't need our design, then you just need our product. So maybe go with our product.
So, do you have a factory of your own?
Yeah.
Like, how big is your factory?
So we have three factories. One is modular, one is doing purely furniture, and the second one is a mix of everything almost, and including accessories.
And the modular furniture, like I've run modular factories. How do you maintain the quality? Because in India, what I've seen is unless you have skilled laborers running who understands quality, the quality understanding is quite weak. If you look at now, it's growing, but still it's quite weak. So how do you maintain that quality when it comes to modular furniture or any other furniture?
So honestly, I think, touchwood, this is one learning that I had from my father. Your business is as good as your team, right? There is a lot of investment, literally 35 years of investment that has gone in building these factories and training these staff, and not everybody is a stationary member since last 35 years. But our karigars are someone that are hugely talented. That's why I mentioned that I don't get scared in commissioning a single piece today, because I know they're capable of figuring it out. They've understood that our quality levels are here. Now they can't deliver anything below this. Number one. Number two, we're only dealing in teak. So automatically, when you're dealing with a premium wood, it is treated like a premium wood. The treatment styles on it, for example, brass cladding, German silver cladding, all of these are rich techniques. We've stuck to techniques that are not replicable easily. And when you almost have a monopoly in something, you ensure that your quality is top notch. We have dedicated team members, we have dedicated stakeholders in the company who are just looking at production. In fact, one of our partners is whole solely dedicated to it. So there's a whole confidence that comes when I'm today pitching my product to you, because I know the quality that I bring to the table. And I'm not scared of sitting at any table purely based on that quality.
It takes a lot of mock-ups, which I've seen in China, which I've gone to China like a couple of times, and I've seen when the chairs are being made. So there are molds which are created before
Yeah.
the actual piece of chair has been made. In what I faced, like I struggled with right furniture manufacturers all through and through, be it the home segment which I was catering to, now commercial segment, F&B segment, everywhere. The right kind of, say example, this chair what we are sitting in. So if the molds are not right, and if it is being customized without the mold being right, uh, it's not as sturdy as a mold. So what do you do with these things? Like how do you address these problems?
Okay, so I'll give you a very layman example. I'm a customer, I don't know shit about furniture. I will keep two chairs in front of you. They look identical to each other in based on upholstery, legs, etc. etc. How do I demarcate whether product A is better than product B or vice versa? There is something called visual weight. We really focus on that as well. A product, when you look at that chair, I know exactly the kind of feel that chair is going to give me. When I sit, these are the ergonomics I can remotely expect. This is the height I'll be at, whether my legs will reach the floor or not, correct? Upholstery is, of course, a great part of it. Molding is a great part of it. But there are so many elements to a chair or any design for any product for that matter. But when we're talking solely about furniture, how the piping is done, to how the finishing is done, to the upholstery of choice, to the shape of the legs, to the ergonomics of it, to how much, if I'm a tall guy, are my thighs kind of jutting out of the end of the chair, or are they completely seated? These are all elements that are tested in trial. There is a huge part of the budget that is spent on R&D. In fact, I learned this from my father. We are one of the highest spenders in R&D in shoes in the entire country at this point. We spend 5% of our earnings on R&D, which is a huge amount of money to be spent. And most companies do not do that. But that is where the main thrill and the main action lies in. We have artisans from Persia, we have artisans from Kashmir who are trained in certain techniques that today are not replicable, or if they are, with a lot of trial and error, is somebody now going to reach that stage. And most companies don't even spend that much. Most companies will not even put in their money in techniques which are so expensive and so labor intensive, because tomorrow if the labor fucks off, you don't know what to do. You cannot replicate that same product. Touch wood, we have staff and labor that has stayed loyal to the company for a long time, and that has helped us.
And something which your learnings from your dad's, how your dad has spent so much on R&D, you implemented them in Carved as well.
For sure.
That's something which it's hereditary, like the skill sets of understanding quality and R&D. You spend in R&D as much?
We spend a lot of money and a lot of time on R&D, and a lot of experiments go wrong. I remember we wanted to launch like a series of glass artifacts larger than, so you should understand one thing about us: we like everything in scale. We don't like to do small things. So we tried to build something in glass very large. It didn't work out because it was an outside vendor that we were trying to work it, and we spent a lot of money on that, more than we would have loved to, but it was an experience, it was a learning. I don't regret it, and tomorrow when I want to reattempt that, I know what not to do.
Right.
So that is definitely one learning. My dad's labor has stayed with him for the past 35 years. He always used to tell me this one thing, that you need to trust your team. You just don't need to be an idiot to have blind faith. So know the difference between the two things.
Right.
And I trust my team to the T. But will that leave that helicopter mom behavior from me a little bit? No, maybe not. I'm still working on that, guys. And I'm still working on figuring out like how much of attention I need to put per project. Does it need to be 100%? Do I need to be on site 10 times a month? Or do I need to go to the site twice and I'm good? So that you learn with trial and error. And I feel we are very young in that aspect to kind of even come to a conclusion or a number for you. And it also refers clients to clients, of course.
You large scale into, you design a lot of F&B spaces. We've recently worked for a restaurant called Neemsi in Bangalore. We're doing the second restaurant with about 7,000 square feet. So what are the key aspects? I mean, I would love to discuss this in terms of what are the key aspects as advice you would like to give to a young designer when they're designing an F&B space. What are the must-dos while you're designing?
So functionality over form, number one. Number two, do not go by the trends. Like if you notice today any restaurant that you go to, there are 2-3 trends that are everywhere. Curved walls. It's very good to have one curved wall, 2 curved walls, and one person has done it, and it's great. If the entire neighborhood is curved walls, it is no longer exclusive. It is no longer giving luxury vibes. Please just end it. You need to bring the story of what you're serving. I always believe that there is a hierarchy of senses. When you enter a bad space, the first thing that you see, your eye sees everything around you. Then you start smelling what the room smells like. Then probably it's the sounds. Then as you go, right? When you enter a good space, especially an F&B space, all of these senses blur. Your food is the last cherry on the cake. It is the last thing that you taste, but it will ensure that the space matches the food. And I don't know how to explain this except in a more emotive emotion. Like the recent F&B space that we delivered, which is Encanto. It's a Mexican space. When we sat down with the clients, there was a discussion about, and these are 2 very young kids, right? They're starting out. It's their first project. There is a lot of emotions involved there. When you're launching something Mexican, you need to be a little more aware of the Mexican history. We introduced them to the history. We introduced them to say, oh, do you want to do the Mayan? You don't want to do the Aztec stories. They literally looked at us like, what are you talking about? We don't know this. But the moment you enter that space today, you don't need a Bob Marley color combination to tell you it's a Mexican space, because that's not what we've done there. You enter and you know, oh, this is something I have seen probably in a history context somewhere, right? Or, oh, these are the color combinations that make me feel this. Oh, this is a space which has enough open space for me to perform like a salsa there, maybe. So everything blended together. And today it's, I think in less than 3 months, it is one of the topmost restaurants in the country. In Gurgaon, not country. Too high pitched. But in Gurgaon at this point, it is in every PR industry, every PR publication. It has been covered by most restaurant journals that come out, and largely because of the design and the combination of all of those things that come together. So, function over form, yes. You need to ensure that your kitchen team and your bar team and everybody's working together. You need to ensure that the movement of the staff is not something very chaotic. If you don't have the space for a service entry, you ensure that the service is done in a very muted form, कि आपके clients को नहीं दिख रहा कि पूरे time staff ज़्यादा दिख रहे हैं और खाने के tables कम भरे हुए दिख रहे हैं, right? So all of these factors combined, we ensure that the F&B spaces, they to tell a story. They are not very limited to the idea of oh, you've come here to have food, let me give you a beautiful space. No. So
What are the key elements what a young designer needs to take care, because they miss out on functionalities? So what is the advice would you like to give to ensure that the functionalities are in check apart from what you give while designing a restaurant?
So of course, the space, as I mentioned, how it is designed, the storage, I think a very, very big factor.
Storage.
Tomorrow, if you want to, I'll give you an example. We're working with a very celebrity chef at this point. I have an NDA. But
It's okay. You can tell me.
So I'm designing her new space. This is her third space. The problem is that I think the problem that she faced in her last space is now she's evolving, right? Food is never static. Your product can never be static. You're evolving. Your product is changing. You are, your number of SKUs is a little more than you thought.
Right.
You've also introduced, say, a line of kombuchas and wines and whatever. And now you need space for displaying that as well. And storage.
Right.
So your place should be able to grow with you. And that's common to homes, spaces, of restaurants, whatever you design, right? Your space should be able to evolve how you are evolving. So all of these things should have technically been thought while she was designing the space in the first place. But today she's struggling with it.
Right.
So now when we're designing her new space, we're looking at every aspect. That tomorrow, if her company is going to turn into a wine bar, there needs to be a wine display, which currently probably just looks like an artifact, and tomorrow can be changed into a wine display section. So preparing for the future, preparation is always better than figuring it out later. And like 2-3 basic things that you just need, hygiene checks that you need to have.
I resonate a lot because Neemsi was the first restaurant when we designed. It was about 3,500 square feet restaurant in Bangalore. The kitchen space was about 500 or 600 square feet, and then the restaurant got sold out in 6 weeks. And they did what calculations what they gave us in terms of the kitchen, because kitchen was something what they had put in their bucket to design. So the kitchen space was much more lesser to the crowd capacity. So now when we are designing the newer restaurants, obviously kitchen is a much more larger space. One example what you had given, right, about that wine bar. So the mocktail, it's a pure veg restaurant what we designed. So they had a mocktail counter, and a lot of demand for mocktail came in. So now we had a mocktail counter in the second space. Third thing what we realized is the service tables. The ratio of service tables has to be much more higher because it has to be very quickly served. And that's where the service comes into place. So,
and another thing is, I think the kind of crowd that you're catering to. Like, say, for example, if you're catering to a young crowd, but sometimes they'll also get parents, right? So you can't have all high chairs. You need to have lower sittings. You need to have sittings which are very comfortable for parents. One very small detail that we look into, for example, is, say, everyone carries their bags today and they're very careful about their bags. They don't want to put it on floor. You need to have either small setups or tables around to ensure that the bags are not on the floor and they're kept safely. The ambience in the toilets, in most of the cases that we've designed so far, the toilets are not a part of our KRA, but if the toilet is a part, I would create the best ambience probably for a toilet.
Yes, I 100% agree to that. When you go to a toilet which is very well designed, you feel the most amazing when you enter a nice toilet. Be it a pub, be it a restaurant, any F&B space.
The light, the music, they all play a very big role.
In fact, I was traveling. I went to one of the few days in my trip to Bali, and the entire toilet was air conditioned. Just and it was a very simplistic. It was nothing like great. It wasn't designed the best. It's like a very, in Bali you have these all concrete formats, very raw. So just entering a restaurant and going to a toilet with air conditioned just feels like, wow, man, this is luxury. It could be so simple in how they had designed it. So I 100% agree. I mean, I could resonate each and everything. So you generally give how big your business is catering towards F&B and how much is towards home?
So residential, of course, forms like the bulk of it. We are now, we're also the people behind, after the attack, when the Taj Bombay attack happened, the revamping of the entire rooms, that was done by our company.
Oh, wow.
Taj, Mansingh, Delhi. Now Bandhavgarh Fort, Radisson, and because there are a lot of NDAs in place, so we can't name everyone. But essentially now we're entering a lot more into F&B and restaurants and hotels. And residential still makes up the bulk of the product line. Right. Design space, now we're moving a little more towards F&B.
And where you get the volumes also, no? It's fun.
Yeah,
when
it's
you
fun.
have
It's
volumes.
quick in and out as compared to a house, which is probably running for 2 to 3 years average, which also includes the architecture bit, of course. But at this point, like, I find F&B much more quirky, and also I'm a little irritated with boho chic everywhere. So I think I would like to bring about a change there.
That comes to me to what is the design trend you secretly love?
I love. Honestly, I don't know a single trend per se, minus the ones that I observe. So I don't know what is in trend. But I tell you what I don't like. I really, I think we've overdone flutes. I think we just need to give it a rest, give it a peaceful farewell, and or do it meticulously. Include it in a way that it looks like a part of a design, and not because you just saw fluting somewhere and now you want it everywhere. I think also, as I mentioned, color drenching, not a fan anymore. It looks very nice, but in India, you cannot maintain it. Your maroon is not going to look maroon after a while if it is done in a home. Maybe in a restaurant, you can still manage because it's dark and dingy upstairs and you don't care. But in a house where you're living and you want to clean it up, it will not stay maroon for a very long time. So that boho chic done in a very, consistently similar way, that has irritated me a little bit. Like, oh, you just hang a few mirrors and you hang a few, what do you call those? Yeah, in the balcony you hang them.
Yeah, those
wind chimes, and the other one.
Wind chimes.
I'm forgetting the term. But if you hang those around and you use Asian paints ka plaster wala naya paint, and everything looks same, and there's no difference anymore. It's the same as the cookie cutter homes that I was talking about. I need to see what is the vision behind the food. I want to demarcate and experience that, okay, this chef is serving me, and most restaurants today are chef driven, right? So you have to get the personality of the chef out. You have to get the personality of the food on the table along with the walls that you see. So yeah, fluting definitely like a huge tata bye-bye from my end.
I mean, before a while we were having this whole conversation about getting the heritage back. So, I mean, one beautiful thing what you mentioned was, you mentioned that we create furniture, we create pieces which goes to generation. So, which are the trends which you like to retrieve from the past? And
so there, in fact, our entire business line, to be honest, product line is largely working so much or resonating so much in our current markets only because there is a fusion involved today. We always believe modern is a conspiracy, and it is great while some people are enjoying it. But you need to do modern in your own way. You need to have your own language when you're doing modern. So what we decided is that there are techniques that we hold very dear to heart, and that in entire Southeast Asia, nobody's doing it as much. In fact, I haven't seen anyone doing it at all. So if it is German silver cladding, or it is brass cladding, or it is bone inlay done in a 3D format, or it is creating wardrobes with tickery panels, or getting any heritage art and culture and creating a modern wardrobe out of it, that's our strength. Because eventually functionality of every wardrobe is the same. आपको कपड़े ही रखने हैं, पर आप बाहर से उसका लुक कैसे चेंज कर सकते हो, आप उसको क्रिएट कैसे करते हो, एलिवेट कैसे करते हो फॉर टुडेज मॉडर्न फैमिलीज is where we're nailing it. And yes, not every product is for everybody. Everybody's budgets are different. Everybody's likeness is different. But because we're a bespoke company, we don't have a set product line. We design based on your vision. Best we can do is we can elevate your vision. Right. if you're willing and open for it. If you're not willing and open for it and you like straight line something, very happy to do that as well. We only deal in teak, so there is a certain premiumness that anyways comes with it, and we maintain the quality.
I mean, that's great, because I think so. The art pieces, what you had mentioned, is a very few people. There are a lot of furniture companies who are into mid-century modern, who are into these modern furniture, who are into furniture, who are into these wood furniture only. But the heritage part is very few in the market are addressing that point, and I think they look fab. Like when you have something super heritage, and you can proudly gift it to your daughters, granddaughters, and that's furniture pieces are going to stay for years. And that's with the quality in what you're building. No, only teak can do that, and I think only.
Yeah, and there are two aspects to this. Another thing, I think as a society or as a startup culture, what has happened is that हम बहुत ज़्यादा focus करते हैं on creating innovation from 0 to 1. And this is not a Peter Thiel conversation I'm trying to have here, but what I'm trying to say is that, oh, are you creating something out of the box completely, oh, new? Or are you using the basics and elevating them? That is also innovation. But you don't look at that innovation as much. We just have this weird obsession about creating something completely bizarre, completely shock value. Today, rattan is something that everybody loves. It is classic, it is age old, it's beautiful. I think that is one of our USPs and our highest skill set that we bring into the table. We're only dealing with teak, so there is a certain premiumness that gets there. Why teak also? Because the kind of techniques that we're working with, teak is one of the strongest woods to take those techniques. So when we're talking about German silver cladding, brass cladding, 3D bone inlay, all of these techniques are possible only on the teak wood, and secondly, these are age-old techniques that have been passed on from generations, and today in entire Southeast Asia, nobody else is doing it. The reason nobody else is doing it, the R&D is very expensive, the costing is very expensive, but we've managed to bring it down to a certain budget line, and I'm not talking budgets like budgets, I'm talking about like an affordable range of product lines, of course in the luxury segment. When you try and get different art forms and you try to retrieve those from the past and you try and club them with the modern fusion idea, you bring together something which is completely new. In India or in the startup culture, I think we are very heavily obsessed with the idea of innovation of 0 to 1, building a product which is largely for shock value, which is like, oh, it is so new, I have never seen something like this. But we don't give enough credit to when you build on the basics. When your basics of art, culture, heritage, science, everything is so solid in this particular field, and then you build on something from it. So we're trying to build on that, and we're trying to innovate in those techniques. How do you inculcate all of these techniques that I listed in a modern format? I'll give you another example. Now, rattan, whatever you call it, is in trend. It's a very age-old technique. How do you ensure that today's modern houses who are paying you a premium are able to get that same technique in a modern format or in a contemporary format in their spaces with the most premium quality? The basic problem with this rattan, etc. is that it bends after some time, right? It loses its shape. We've built a double layering technique. We've done it in the most modern colors that you can imagine. We've ensured that the wood is carved to complement that bit. We've ensured that the upholstery products, which are again very, very customizable considering we are bespoke, matches the color formats that we're working with. And it's an entirely new, different product. Nobody can even point out that it doesn't fit in a modern or a contemporary space. It's a very age-old technique. So it is up to you, like up to a furniture designer, and I'm not talking about a furniture supplier, two very, very different things, how you inculcate these things. Today we are making wardrobe panels with tikri work. We're getting pichwai art and we're trying to figure out how to infuse it with glass. All of these fusions and all of these innovations deserve their due credit. And if you don't do it, the world is looking towards India at this point. China, in some years, they do certain things really well, and I completely give them credit where there is due. But when the entire world is looking at India for its art, culture, product manufacturing, we are rushing outside to find something. So you have to look inward. You have to do the work to figure out who's doing some crazy work out there. And you go to ID, you go to Foyd, you'll be surprised at what you're going to see. So you have to be a little more, yes, it is our job as a designer to figure out how to fit it into the market, but it is also the client's job to figure out and search for people who are doing that kind of differential.
How do you improve your networking skills? What has helped you in terms of your growing your network? Because that is a very relevant for a B2B business like
Yeah.
ours.
Okay, so when I was in SRCC, I knew before I entered that space, I'm not here to study. I've done my studying till 12th standard. I've achieved good marks. I've entered the space because I want to know the right people. And it is not with an agenda driven that, oh, I need to know the richest, the most powerful. No. The idea that people whose mental capacity, mental math matches mine, number one. So I think you need to bring intention to the table, number one. Set your intention that, okay, these are the friends that I want to carry forward. And it is not with a, tomorrow they'll help me. None of my friends or none of my colleagues from college are in the same industry as mine. They're not helping me there. But they are my sounding boards. If I have ideas, whether it is to expand a business or whether it is to do some changes in my personal life, these are the people who I go to, right? So I think intentionality with relationships is a little important. What networking I have done so far is largely that I think I'm a decent friend. I'm a good friend to have. I will be there when shit goes down. I will definitely send you farm fresh goodies every time that I see you, or if you're around. I am mostly a call away for people that I want to be. And for people that I don't feel the need to have a very one-on-one close relationship, I'm very okay meeting them on and off over coffee. That is how I can do relationship building. I don't understand giving cards away and then reminding somebody, oh, I met you 2 years ago in this event and how do you feel about catching up for a coffee? No, sometimes I've done that as well, but it's never culminated into something real. So networking for me has largely been to build a relationship with intentionality, whether it is I see you as a friend, I see you as a colleague, I see you as a person who's, I probably want to go paddle with, right? So I'm sure there's a commonality between you and me as well. Tomorrow, if we figure out, oh, both of us love reading, we start a book club together. It will never be about industry conversation or.
So is
that.
the business is the last thing what you discuss in a networking
Yeah.
meeting? And I am part of BNI. So I've been part of BNI from the last 5 to 6 years. What I've realized is, and I was part of a very large chapter. My chapter size was 125. I was one of the largest and the first 100 people chapter in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was in Bangalore, the chapter. So what I understood is out of that 100, now it's 125, I still do business only with the 10 whom I'm really good friends with. Like, not because I networked with them very nice, but because they were my friends. Yeah. And when the whole trust and the visibility, all that stuff they talk about, but eventually it comes to that relationship and the bond what I have
For
with them.
sure.
Yeah. So it's about first just hanging out with them. That worked for me. I just hung out with them more often because I felt like it. Because
Correct.
not. And when I had to move to Pune, the chapter, I went to a couple of chapters. Then I saw the crowd and I didn't decide from before. It was like ये builder है, ये शायद real estate में है, ये है. It could be my contacts peer, the power buddies, whom I can get business. This time what I've changed is whom I can hang out with. Can I go chill out with this guy? So the chapter which I chose now was I found like bunch of 5 to 10 guys who I can hang out every day or I could call, and that's where I understand the sales comes in. And that's what I tell the people who are newly inducted in BNI, bhai, up sabko, don't please anyone. You got to be a joker when you're selling. You either can sell ice creams and make people happy, or just be happy and
Correct.
So yeah.
Isn't that something that you bring to the clients as well? Like,
Yeah.
I know that as a young business person, technically everyone would tell me, don't say no to any business coming.
Right.
Right? At
Right.
this stage of working,
Yeah.
when you're growing, don't say no to any business. But I have said no, very honestly, to at least 4 to 5 people that I know. And it's not because, the money wasn't right or the aesthetics weren't matching. It is because it didn't sit well as a human being for me to work with this person. He might be a great person, but in context to me, I'm not enjoying the energy.
The vibe is not there.
The vibe is not there. And, it takes, I don't know, like you need to bring that intentionality even in client-based relationships. You don't have to be best of friends, but you have to be friendly and civilized enough.
How do you build processes? How do you do you take courses, or someone who wants to build processes? We struggle as a company almost like couple of initial years. We struggle always building like world class process or whatever basic processes. So how do you build process? Is there something which you learn over the period of time, or it's better to take a coach on board?
I mean, see, world class process to मुझे नहीं पता है, but a process that works for you, correct? You know your team, you know their weaknesses and their strengths. You figure out a system around it. For the longest time, for example, Neha and I, both as founders as well, we thought when we started the company, we're going to do everything. Everybody's going to do everything. We're also going to become influencers. We're also going to become, top-notch in accounts. Till we figure out, no, we need to play to the strengths. So Neha is going to stick largely to the technical side of design. I'm going to stick to conceptualization and the business of things. These are our strengths. Let's be honest. Let's accept them. Similarly goes for SOPs as well. If I know that my POP guy is fabulous, I don't even need to double check it. I will put minimal interaction set up there. But if I know my tile guy is a nuisance, is going to run away every chance that he gets, I have to keep a tight leash there. In terms of on-paper processes, there are standard formats that now are abundantly available on internet. You can just download them and follow them to the T, especially for an architectural site. For an interior site also, you would just have these tick mark lists. You need to just follow that, and that is good enough. But even apart from all of this, you will have to have a WhatsApp group. You will have to have these daily reminders. You will have to have somebody who can physically go, if not every day, weekly at least, to just check what is happening, how the update's going. Because sometimes clients tend to lose patience and they get very finicky. And then you also have to do the mothership role of controlling and keeping their patience in check. So while you're doing all of this, it's very good to divide your roles based on your strength.
Right. And then, I mean, eventually you build, process, improve. You got to start somewhere.
Trial and error completely.
I
think that's largely with everything.
Do you consider yourself as a designer or a business owner?
When I was very, very young, my only imagery was of a businesswoman. So that is what I really like to believe. I am a designer by instinct. I have an eye by not even making an attempt to have an eye, but I do have the eye for things. But if you tell me that where does my heart lie in the entire process, I think it is about just looking at the entire picture. Because, there is this thing that I feel. Everybody says, oh, you're so lucky that, you get to do this, or this person's so lucky that they got to do this. I feel your surface area of luck increases the moment your surface area of stimuli increases. So today, I'm a business person, but I also read insane number of books. I consume podcasts. I'm heavily into politics, gender studies, caste studies. That is my hardcore interest. I do jigsaw puzzles like nobody's business. 2,000, 4,000 pieces. I love to travel. You have to be that multifaceted person because you don't know when your source of inspiration is going to come from. So, if you're a businesswoman, you can't just be like, मैं अपना business चलाती हूँ. नहीं, आपको सीखना भी पड़ेगा, आपको डिज़ाइन इंस्पिरेशन भी चाहिए, आपको अपनी आंखें भी खुली रखनी है जब आप कुछ क्रेजी देखते हो और आपको लगता है ये मैंने अपने में क्यों नहीं सोचा, राइट? सो यू आर अ वेरी, I don't know, you're a whole person. So that's why when the first question you asked me, right, like how do you introduce myself? I don't like introducing myself only with my profession or a label. I am just a person who's very, very multifaceted, and I have layers, and I would love if somebody explores those layers and not in a very platonic manner, ideally.
और आपको धंधा भी चलाना है और बाकी ये सब भी करना है. बहुत टफ है. Like, people say about reading, I've always tried to read a book like only time which I get, and it's not that I don't have time. I feel everyone has that time. It's like you're making time. The only time which I generally like to say I get is when I'm flying. Like that's boring.
Yeah.
I don't have my phone. The biggest thing is phone is not there. So that time is the time when I read a book and stuff. And that time your mind is so calm that you're just with yourself, and then you're thinking. And another thing which I realized, I was just reading a book where it talks about a fast thinking and a slow thinking. Fast thinking is like the rush part, what we spoke about, and slow thinking is when you just calm down. And I think so. These all things what you spoke about is keeps your mind in terms of taking it away from business. It's learning few things, and that's why you try to implement the inspiration. You'd call it as an inspiration, you call it as a learning, you would call it XYZ, which eventually consciously or subconsciously you implement in your business some way or the other, or
I'll
in
give
your
a very
lifestyle
small
also.
example. Like when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, there are two ways you have to do this, okay? And I would really recommend if you try it as well because you're a designer. You have to look at a block of this size, and you have to look at every nook and corner of that block just to understand ये कहाँ जाएगा, right? This is one step. The second step is you have to get up and you have to look at the overall picture. This is exactly what design works like. You have to look at it minutely, but you also can't miss the forest for the trees. You have to look at the big picture all the time. So this is what I learned from jigsaw puzzles. Now, if I didn't observe this, that this is what I'm learning, or if I was not conscious or intentional while I'm doing this, or the fact that if I have not done it also, I feel like I would have missed out on a very big aspect of my personality that I'm capable of minutely looking in and zooming out as well.
Right,
So
right.
you don't know where your source of
Where what
inspiration
will
will
come?
come from.
I picked up learning also. Now I do learn. Like every month I've decided to take up a course. Earlier I thought course was not for me. I know everything. But now, I mean, maybe if I do a 2 or 3 day session course, maybe 2 or 3 things which I picked up, and that's great. And my mind also goes off. Your 3 days mind goes off, and that's I think that is a time when I'm actually thinking of strategy. I'm thinking, oh, ये नहीं था, ये कर सकते हैं. Because otherwise, if you're operationally on a business like ours, which is a very operational heavy business, your mind is always on it. Like it's a 24/7 is what I feel all the time. But you have to get your mind off, and these things actually get your mind off. And maybe a book or learning a course or probably uh, learning a new skill is something which challenges your mind. And I
I
think
think
that's a
Varun
large
Grover
game.
said it that if you want a great script out of me, put me in a flight. I will do the best work in a flight and come back. And I completely agree with you because today our engagement with everything is so shallow. Oh, I saw one reel about something and I'm an expert on it. No, you're not. Read a book, learn, go in depth. You need to understand. If you can't write a 2000 page article on this, you're not an expert. So please. So, and we get this dopamine hits ki Google kiya, acha, oh, samajh mein aa gaya, chalo. Now I can quote it anywhere. You have to learn and get down and dirty. And this is actually another learning that I had from Anom as well. Because I felt like making clothes is, oh, it is this. Okay, fine. I could do it. But do I know the business of clothing? No, I don't. I learned it over time, yes, and I'm grateful for it. But I wish that I had spent a little more time in understanding the industry, which I'm doing now. So no learning goes to waste. Nothing goes to waste.
And learning is, I think, so you got to keep learning, no? As an entrepreneur, like you meet people, you pick up a skill. You meet people, you pick up a skill. And I think so. That's why the most successful entrepreneurs are. They one thing which I've been fortunate enough to hang out because of my business of office interiors. I hang out with a lot of co-founders, and they're all business owners. So one thing which I've realized is one common thing which trait which I've seen. First thing, they love to do a lot of boring stuff. That makes them successful, and that makes their business much more scalable. Second thing, they have an excellent knack of learning. Like they just learning does not stop, and learning is an effort what you got to put in proactively. Because in the rush of whole operational business, it's always you got to get operations going to put you down. It's like a sea, tum doob jaoge. But if you have a knack of learning all the time with new people, meeting new people, and maybe one skill what you develop, and I think so that can, and on a very cumulative basis, and it keeps compounding, it can flourish you.
Sure. And if you notice, like, design is just about two things, okay? Or for that matter, just running a business about two things, I feel. Empathy, because आपको समझ में आ रहा है कि आपके client की ज़रूरत क्या है. You adapt that as a problem solving information, right? And then you solve that problem. So that's empathy. Second is curiosity, because you have to know your client in depth. And the moment you do these two things, you're upskilling yourself with every project. Because today I learned this thing about Raj, tomorrow I'm going to learn something else about this person, and I know how a future client I have to tackle now who's similar to yours.
Right.
So empathy, curiosity, baseline.
Right.
And then
right,
you build on whatever.
Right. Empathy and curiosity. That's all. Curiosity is something what you got to go. Empathy is what your people skill gets in.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Say I'm a newly married couple, which I'm not, who's moving out of my family home to build my own home. However, we are running on a tight budget and we want to DIY our home, right? What are the things, if you got to guide them and few people who are watching this, and when you're newly married, you want to do this home in a
Yeah.
very nice way, but obviously you're in a limited budget.
Right.
What are the things what you got to watch out for, what to avoid, where to source your material, how do you choose your furniture? There are 4 questions.
So I'm sad about the fact that you'll not be able to do our product line because we are not DIY. But
that's in
what you
general.
can do is, they can of course hire us. We're very good. But the other part of it is, see, DIY में आप अगर सब कुछ कर रहे हो, you don't first of all have to invest heavily in every piece of furniture to make a space look good. You need 2 to 3 statement pieces, good quality pieces. You also have to decide which pieces you will carry forward into your next home. Those are the pieces you invest in.
Right.
You need a good bed. You can't be sleeping on gaddas and you can't be sleeping on a low quality mattress. These are the non-negotiables. Make a list of your non-negotiables. These are the ones that you invest in. If you feel, okay, I don't have the money or the budget to invest in a very, very heavy piece of, say, a chair, I would rather use that money to focus on the upholstery. Because, okay, fine, if my chair quality is not teak, but it's an average wood, and I cover it up with a upholstery or a fabric that I enjoy sitting on, it is half the battle won, right? So I'll ensure that I spend it in the right spaces. Again, say when it comes to accessories, you don't have to fill up your homes. We are very strongly against filling up your house with knickknacks. We like one statement piece, and that is sometimes more than enough. If you don't want to invest in that, also plants. Plants are your best friend. Hide all the mistakes behind a plant. Hide all the grouting that is coming out. Hide whatever, and they grow with you. So as you're aging, the plant is probably getting a flower, and you just observe and be happy, and bringing nature inside, especially in today's apartments where there is no nature anywhere. I think it's a great idea. What were your other questions? I forgot.
What do you look out for? What to avoid? Where can you source your material? And how do you choose your furniture? I think so you answered how do you choose your furniture.
Yeah. What to avoid is, of course, spending all your money on very, very expensive statement pieces. Don't fill up your house with statement pieces all the time, because then if everything's statement, nothing is statement. Pick classic styles. Work on the upholstery. Focus, put your money, if you don't invest again in the framework, invest definitely in good upholstery, because touch and feel factor makes or breaks the place. There are a lot of people, and there's a client who came to us who said that we don't like to host people. We hate people in our house. But everybody says कि dining table तो होनी चाहिए. नहीं होनी चाहिए. तुम्हारा घर है. अपने हिसाब से बनाओ भाई. Who told you that dining table is mandatory just because ये सबके घर में होती है? You like to eat on a couch? Invest in a good couch.
Right.
So make it adaptable to how you like it, how you will use the space. Tomorrow the dining table is lying as a dumping ground for you. It is not serving any purpose.
And yeah, and just to add on, like since you're talking about accessories, in India, what I've seen, the most of the homes are maximalist.
Yeah.
They want a storage, and that's like bulk. और वो आधी चीज़ें यूज़ होती नहीं है because फेंकना हमको पसंद नहीं है, इसलिए हम भरते रहते हैं, right? So I think so the minimalism plays a big role. And second thing which I've seen in most of the homes, because we come from a modular, I have come from a modular background, like so what I've seen, one thing which missing in homes is styling. Is styling with the accessories, styling with the nice curtains, styling with the fabrics as you had mentioned. तो styling का जो element है जो actually सुंदरता बनाता है, like furniture and all is great, no doubt, but I think so you can choose right curtains, उसके कलर्स आप अच्छे कर सकते हो, फैब्रिक्स अच्छे कर सकते हो, फर्नीचर में ऐसे बोला आपने उसके फैब्रिक्स अच्छे कर सकते हो, प्लांट्स ला सकते हो आप, लाइट्स, डेकोर, लैम्प शेड्स, उसमें इतना इट्स नॉट लाइक यू हेविली इन्वेस्टिंग इन दीज थिंग्स, बट आई थिंक दिस होलसमली can bring out the entire house together, and I think that creates a warmth also in the whole home.
Yeah. In fact, to be very honest, craft का एक segment started only because we realized that a lot of people, sometimes when you're living in a space, you don't have the time or energy or money to break the entire house down and then build it again, right? You just need to hire a styling team which will come,
Right.
redo the entire space for you, change the upholsteries, do the curtains well, do the carpets well, bring in a fresh sense of the same space. And one major rule that I like to follow in all my projects, and I always say that no matter who's designing, your place should have transition quality. Tomorrow, if I want to move this there, I should be able to do that because my house has a theme and has a story that will adapt to every piece that I'm building. One piece I get from IKEA, one piece I get from somewhere, one piece I pick up from West Ham. I look like a curated bazaar. I don't look like a home. So when you're building, first decide the theme of the house. First decide the color schemes. Decide the baseline, and then you build on it.
Right,
Then it
right,
makes sense.
Right. So if I can't, most of the young couples can't hire you for the entire home. They might as well hire you for styling.
Yeah,
And that's
so
how
we
it's
do
going to
have
make a
a
lot of
team.
difference.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we have, and it's a
You got
very
a solution for all. That's why I hire car for that. I'm coming from a finance background. I'm constantly reminded how powerful design is shaping how people feel at work. How do you think interior plays a large role for designing a great workspace?
I was listening to this. I'm forgetting the name of the person again because I'm really bad at this, but he's an advertising guru. And he said this one line, and I laughed. I remember I laughed my heart out because he said something on the lines of today's advertising agencies feel कि बीच में 3-4 बीन बैग डाल दो तो ग्रेट आइडियाज़ आते हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता है. गूगल ने किया था, बहुत अच्छी बात है, उनके लिए काम किया, बट ऐसे नहीं होता है कि बीन बैग से आइडियाज़ आते हैं. लोगों से आइडियाज़ आते हैं और लोग जब स्टिमुलेशन में आते हैं देन आइडियाज़ आते हैं. करेक्ट.
Right.
So I feel any office space needs to have an area, and it doesn't have to be a designated area that this is the area of conversation. No. It just has to be areas where you're able to stimulate human to human interaction, department to department interaction. You need to have, like, I think Airbnb has this rule that in all their office spaces, a pantry is supposed to be 100 steps away from every cubicle in their office. Maybe it's a great rule, it works great for them. Google had another rule that everyone is going to collectively sit together in one space and have their lunch, so that different verticals of the business are able to interact and get ideas from each other. Both of these ideas have one thing in core, which is community building, conversations, and ideas. So the more your office space is going to be able to ensure that, I think you have a successful design at hand. Because eventually office design has workstations, cubicles, not cubicles, conference rooms, blah, blah, blah. Accessibility of plug points, accessibility of how are you keeping your, how are you able to interact with your neighboring cubicle? How is another person able to store their things? These basic things that you keep in mind, yes. But I think it's so much more about water cooler conversations without actually having a water cooler. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think so that stimulation, what you mentioned about, without stimulation, I mean, one beautiful thing which I was just reading, I was just scrolling my Instagram, and they say that, to run a successful business, you got always try to be in a right mood. Your mood drives your business a lot of times. So I think so for employee productivity as well. If the employees are in a right mood set, and if you bringing the right environment which drives their energy levels and maintains it, like hopefully maintains it to the level of high productivity, that's, I think so, your 90% of your job is done.
And scope of being human, dude. Like, you are going to come to work if you've had a fight with your partner and you're coming to work, you are going to carry that energy. But the fact is that the space should be
How do you change
conducive
it?
enough to change it, or at least accommodate it. Ki it's okay if you're having a shit day. I have you take a protein bar, feel better. I don't know, like whatever makes them feel
Yeah.
better, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to know your employees and you have to design around them as well. And of course, the attrition rate based on any company is high. So but you'll have those standards in people, right? Like, oh, this is how it works. So build around it, build around people. I think recently somebody was at the Reliance office in Mumbai, and it's a beautiful campus. It is completely designed around people in Mumbai in a space where it's a concrete jungle. You have green areas so that people can feel 1 degree lower in terms of their heated aggressions
Wow.
and come down and just have a conversation. So
Makes a lot of difference,
yeah,
no?
it makes so much of difference. Plants bring character to a space. Please let them be. Like, they really help and calm down people. Today, bringing your furry babies to work, allowing that space to happen is also a very big aspect of.
Right. And how does ergonomics play a key role in terms of designing office spaces? I'll give you an example. Why I would want to touch upon this topic is so far we've designed multiple office spaces. One office space which we designed for a Nordic company called EG, where we all the workstations what they asked. It was a 36,000 square feet space in Mangalore, which we delivered in 45 days. Two things: Nordic colors are generally muted, like they are either in white, grays, and that's about it. That's the only color tone you got to use. They don't want to have too many colors. All the workstations were standing. I mean, you could it's height adjustable workstations. What we did for them, and even the chairs were all are like very branded and ergonomically right fit for any kind of human body size. Could be tall, could be short. So those two things were the must-have in their guideline. And obviously, when we try to design offices, not that people have so much of spending, but these guys wanted to invest in these two things, and rest is like, is it there? It's not there. We don't. Yeah. So how much ergonomics plays a well? Maybe for homes also.
Yeah. Like, why do you think people started noticing in India, especially why they became so obsessed with Italian furniture? Because Italians had nailed ergonomics. There was no other reason.
Okay.
Today at Cart, we are only trying, yes, product design, aesthetic, everything is very, very good. But what we really nail is also ergonomics. We don't do office furniture, sadly, but if I was doing it, my entire focus would be on that comfort level, would be, I think your company, the one that you designed for, was absolutely correct because there is no other thing. If somebody is supposed to sit there for 8 hours, they need to have their back aligned. They can't be suffering from pains everywhere simply because you skimmed out on the furniture a bit, right?
Right. Right.
So ergonomics definitely is the make or break. Office may aesthetics play a certain role in common areas a lot more. So I don't think so. You should focus a lot more in terms of like design chair ka kya hai. But if there is comfort, your employee is happy, your work is done.
And I think it becomes very relevant for homes and F&B also, because F&B where you're sitting and having a meal, that comfort level of the furniture, what you are sitting on, you having probably that could be your date, could be something where you having a good time with your family, could be something you just had a bad day, you're just having a meal by yourself, anything. So I think so that whole in homes too, like the whole ergonomics, like the corners what you had mentioned, no, that probably the chair and the corner what you have for yourself, it's a reading corner. So where you're gonna sit and probably relax is something makes.
But इसमें ना, I think in F&B ना thing differs. I'll tell you why. I've had three types of clients. Number one, people who want absolute luxury in their furniture line in the F&B space. Great. There are second type of clients who like to change and fluctuate their furniture very often to get to refresh the place. They don't want to invest that much in spaces in furniture, and that's okay. The third is they deliberately make it uncomfortable so that people don't use their cafe space for
As
long
often.
hours
Yeah.
for working.
You work in a custom product design field. Product design itself is a very niche industry. What are the current gaps in the market that a young aspiring designer should fill in the product space, as per you?
I think the reason that we are able to thrive on the product line that we have is largely because very few people are touching their hands in terms of understanding fusion design. getting the categories and infusing it with good quality materials, that I think is a big gap. Yes, there are players and there are good players, but the number as compared to the mass production that you're seeing in the market is very, very shitty, right? Like the ratio is very, very bad. Why are people leaning towards, and there are two, three reasons, right? Like, so if you supply them in the market a little more, the demand will increase as well, because people will start seeing it. आज के ज़माने में लोगों को पता ही नहीं है ये हो रहा है. Only the premium clientele which is walking into my showroom or which is introducing to my Instagram or word of mouth, say they are able to figure out, oh, this is what they are doing. But most people are not able to access it, right? So, but the moment it becomes a little ubiquitous, you can people will start demanding it. The moment you see a product at top notch layer, you know, okay, this is what I can aspire to, right? You will start demanding it. People will start making more of it. Automatically, the prices will meet somewhere in the middle. And then it is a little more affordable. And you don't have to achieve pure brass cladding. You can achieve a different version of it, maybe, and make it more accessible to people out there. So that not everybody is sticking either to a low grade carpenter who's sitting here and making those things in your house and building a wardrobe where you're sitting in the burada for days and you're sweeping it out for years. My team comes and sets up your entire house in 72 hours. That's our take. We build everything in our factory. We come and set it up for you. It is not modular. Like, there are modular aspects to it in wardrobes, libraries, etc. But even in terms of assembling an entire bar for you, we're doing it everything in 72 hours. Your house is not getting dirty beyond a point. You're not struggling with labor all the time. So if I was a new age person who's entering into this line, first of all, I would just work on R&D. I would just figure out, like, how do I innovate on the existing techniques? How do I make the basics better? Because आज के ज़माने में the basics में ही आपका खराब हो रहा है. If you go to the budget categories of Live Space and West Ham and all of these, they're doing good work. But are they doing quality that will sustain you for yours? If you're building a permanent home, if you're building a home that will have things that you want to pass down to your next generation, you will invest in it, right?
Right.
At least invest. I'm not saying invest with us. Invest with whoever you want.
Correct.
But invest in quality.
Right.
So, but that quality you'll have to demand as a consumer. The whole reason I started doing the Decode Luxury series is largely to make people aware that today in market you are seeing XYZ, but there is so much more in the name of luxury out there, which is actually better in quality, but you don't hear it because it's not loud and it's not in your face. And what you're hearing might actually not be luxury in terms of quality. So just understand as a consumer what is the distinction and work accordingly.
Right. If you had a big billboard outside your house, what would be that message be to the entire world?
I think play to play. I'll give you a little context of what I mean by this. I've been a reader for 30 plus years. I have no metrics to show to anyone that this is why I'm reading. I have no table dinner settings where I have to look at the smartest of the table. There is no other reason that I read except the reason that I love reading, right? There's no other reason I like to do jigsaw puzzle except the reason that I like jigsaw puzzle. Similarly, there is no other reason why I run a business because I love doing it. And your business doesn't have to be your passion. I know what people say about, oh, let your passion be your business. I don't think so. Let your passion be your passion. Let your business be your business. But the underlying current is that you have to enjoy both. You have to really love what you're doing. You do it for the sake of it and not for the numbers and not for showing it to somebody and not for anything else except for the reason that you love doing it. There's a very good book. It's called Wanting. It's by Luke Burgess. It talks about mimesis, which is mimetic desires, which is essentially that today if I want something, Kanika wants this. Why? Because Raj has it. It's a mimetic desire. Internally, maybe I don't want it. It's about thick and thin desires. So is this a thick desire that I truly want it, or is it a thin desire because he has it and I want it as well? Because I look at him as a role model, correct? And role models doesn't have to be Amitabh and Shah Rukh or whatever. They have to be your peers as well, because those are the most influential role models. Via the influencer culture came in as well, right? So largely, just understand that whatever you do in your life, today you're a homemaker, tomorrow you are rearing your children, day after you're running a business, you're XYZ or hobbies, whatever you do, just do it because you actually want to do it and not because you have something to prove to anybody else. And this comes from a person with daddy issues. So I'm not going to say that I started business purely because, I love business or something like that. There is a certain amount of validation that I also need, right? And I do seek it from my dad, or I do seek it from other people in my life. But having said that, over the years, I have started enjoying the process of building more. The same question that you asked me, that like, I like the question of building something. The reason being because that thrill I will not get.
Right.
Once
Right.
my first million in my company was the easiest to come to me.
Right.
It came within the first month. I didn't value it. But now that entire struggle that I'm doing of expanding to a new market, figuring out, getting a meeting, that thrill and that rush is so good. And that is why I do a business. I love the thrill of business. So play to play.
Thanks a lot, Kanika, for joining
Thank
in.
you.
It
It
has
was a
been a
lovely
pleasure.
conversation.
I think this conversation was it's carved my journey as an entrepreneur. Best of luck for what you're doing in Carve. I think people, the market gap is very genuine. People would want more product designers or design companies like you to have great furniture, and probably India should be looked into as a country, not only China and Turkey but India. Only the heritage and the things what you and companies like you which are there in the market can meet that mission, and best of luck for that.
Thank
And
you.
more than that,
Thank you.
you've been really great. I mean, a lot of people would just see you as a designer, but there are so many multi aspects of your life as an entrepreneur is something which has inspired me quite a bit, man. Thanks a
No,
lot for
it
coming
was
in.
great. And I was tad bit nervous, but I think I was having fun while I was doing it. So it's
Great.
good. Thank
Great
you.
conversation.